Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Sherlock episode review. This is going to be my review for the Season 3 finale, which is obviously 303, His Last Vow. So getting straight into my thoughts on the episode, I really did enjoy the episode a lot. I thought it was, I really appreciated, I think, them returning to a kind of more case-driven kind of story where it wasn't just based around the emotion Sherlock, John, Mary, that they actually introduced an interesting villain for probably the first time this season, one to kind of rival Moriarty in terms of if you're interested in the villain just as much as Sherlock and co, because you didn't care at all about the villain in the first episode. Same with the second episode. This time, Charles Augustus Magnuson was actually a really kind of fascinating character who in many ways kind of stole some of the scenes he was in, and that was a big positive. That said, when I first watched the episode, I came out of it kind of slightly kind of confused about some stuff. Like, I got the gist of what happened, but I was still like, what are they doing in different aspects? I watched it the second time, I was still confused about some certain things, but literally, as I was putting my camera down right there to record this video, it all came together, what my kind of problem that I had, and I basically fixed it for myself, I think, just by figuring it out. And that was, what was Magnuson's involvement with Sherlock for in the first place? He said he didn't have a plan, and I was kind of struggling to figure out, like, if he didn't have an even plan in the first place, why did he have John put in the fire, and why is he even involved with Sherlock? But then I kind of even wrote it all out. Basically, I don't know if anyone else had any problem with this. It was probably blatantly obvious to everyone else, but it took me a while to get this. But the whole thing about it was these government plans, Mycroft's laptop. He didn't actually care about that, I think. I think that's the main thing here, and that all he wanted in having a pressure point on Mycroft was that gave him basically protection by the government, that no one would come after him because he'd be protected by Mycroft, hence why Mycroft was going against Sherlock when he found out he was on the case. And so the pressure point for Mycroft was Sherlock, and the pressure point for Sherlock was John, and then the pressure point for John was Mary, who he actually had some information on and could, blackmail things that way, and that's why he had protection from Mycroft. So it just took me a while to actually get that it was the whole idea of protection. So there was not actually a case to the episode, even though I said that I appreciated that. I think in the end, the whole season, I think, it's not that I disliked the fact that there was very little focus on cases. I think it was just that there was very little focus on who the villain was. There was no character to the cases, I suppose, was the main thing. And Charles Augustus Magnuson, even though there was no case to this, and while you could tell he was a bad guy, he didn't have an evil plan as such, but he was interesting, and that's what really made this episode for me, along with a lot of very emotional scenes. It was a lot more action-packed, and definitely more like a regular Sherlock episode, even though it still had the kind of more character-driven side of things that this season has had. But let me get into my actual usual points I have in the episodes. I'll start off with Charles Augustus Magnuson, because he obviously starts off the episode for us. I really liked the way, I think it's Lars Mikkelsen is the actor. I loved the way he portrayed this character, just never really emotional at all, just the dead eye stare that Sherlock mentions multiple times, and then just the like emotionless delivery in all of his lines, and his his accent really kind of helped it as well. The way he was kind of just pronouncing some of the words, it was just you really felt that there was like a gravitas behind this villain, and that's something like the photographer from the second episode, or the politician from the first episode, didn't have this season, and it's something I kind of missed. It's what Moriarty had in the first two seasons, and it was nice to see something like that back. the whole idea of him having pressure points on people just through all this information that he's amassed, because he owns newspapers, and he finds these pressure points in people and can just blackmail them instantly. And then the idea that this is what Sherlock hates most, more than anyone. Like, even Moriarty doesn't make, I suppose, his skin crawl as much as this guy, just because uh, Moriarty's kind of like obvious and kind of confrontational about this sort of things. But this guy kind of plays dirty, uses your past against you. If you're different, he uses that against you, and that's something that Sherlock doesn't like. So that was interesting. And then they set up the idea of the Appledore vaults as like the uh, Alexandra library of all this information that he has. And then we come to the conclusion that it's all in his mind palace. And I thought that was actually a brilliant reveal, considering how big of a focus that's been this season. They've referenced it multiple times. And then for that to be it was great. And then they even kind of had that kind of moment where you think Sherlock takes off his glasses and you're just like, oh, he's got like electronic glasses that are like linked to an electronic store of the information. But no, it's just, he, like Sherlock, he has a mind palace and that kind of really good memory. That was interesting. And then getting into more of the plot of things, as I was explaining with it took me a while to figure out what he was really about. But as he says at the end, he is just a businessman. He didn't have an evil plot. Sherlock couldn't be the hero. And even though Sherlock killed him, as much as he didn't stop an evil plan, he did kind of help the world by just, this guy is not there to basically just control people if he wants to control them. And the big thing about it was that Sherlock's, the whole title, I suppose, his last vow is Sherlock protecting the Watson family, John, Mary, and their unborn child. The thing he had to do that was to basically eliminate anything about Mary's previous life before John. So it all worked out well in the end, and I think I really liked the fact that this episode had a clear plot to it, and it was more character driven, but it was character driven with plot, which I really did appreciate, and that really puts this episode up on a high level for me. He also had some really creepy scenes as well, when he licked the woman at the start, and then when he goes to the toilet in the fireplace in Baker Street. It's just, he's this sort of a guy. He just can control a room because of who he is, and that was a really interesting character. Next, we get some really interesting stuff on John in this episode. First of all, he's been away from Sherlock for a month, so since the wedding, the Sherlock's been away, hasn't been around him, and John gets really restless. We see that the big thing about him in this episode is that we find out that he's fundamentally kind of addicted to dangerous situations and also dangerous people. So that's why he was like a kind of a loner until he met Sherlock, and then he's the person he gravitated to because he gave him that danger all the time with the cases. Mary, the eventual reveal that she was a former intelligence agent and assassin sort of thing. That's why he was in some way attracted to her, even though he didn't know that. And then the whole thing, little reveals about Mrs. Hudson and all these other people. Most of his friends are like detectives and stuff like that. People involved in this sort of a field. He has very few normal just people around him, and that was an interesting reveal. Just that they're the sort of people that he gravitates towards, and that was interesting. And especially in the opening scene where you actually see a real similarity between him and Sherlock, in that you have Mary kind of playing the usual John role of like comforting the person who comes in kind of upset, and then John taking on that more detached Sherlock role where he's kind of forgetting everyone's names even though he knows them, focusing on like just the facts and stuff like that, and then obviously just storming the drug den. It was with the tire lever and stuff like that. That was really cool, and he had this kind of big moment where he just takes down Billy Wiggins at the start. That was a cool scene. They give him that moment, and then Sherlock also has a kind of one of those scenes as well where he just smashes Mycroft up against the wall with one hand, just to show that they're not just kind of intelligent people, but they're also kind of actual dangerous. Like, John knew that Sherlock could have snapped Mycroft in half there if he needed to, which I suppose explains why Sherlock was suitable for this MI6 mission that's talked about throughout the episode. But yeah, and then then we get to discover, Sherlock's in there, and part of his plan is to get it out into the newspapers that he's a drug addict. So that would be the obvious pressure point that Magnuson would see in him, that he's addicted to drugs. But it's something that Sherlock wouldn't care about because he knows that he can get over it and stuff like that. When his actual pressure point is John, and that's who he cares about a lot. And he was trying to distract him, but Magnuson saw straight through it. So it kind of like moments in the episode kind of make other moments kind of not have as much meaning, but they were still really cool when they did happen. He's apparently taken Billy Wiggins on as his protege. It was a really funny moment when he started doing the deduction on John about how he always has the clothes folded ready to go out on a mission. It was interesting. Little interesting hint that maybe something Molly and Tom are not engaged anymore, so they've apparently broken up. That obviously leaves the potential open for something with Sherlock and Molly next season or something like that. They didn't really hint too much on it, but she had a big important role in his mind palace and another scene as well. Mycroft and Sherlock, there's been a big focus on the relationship this season, and in this episode we get this nice scene where they're just kind of out smoking together, and he just says that, it would break my heart if something happened to you, and then Sherlock's just like, what? How am I going to respond to that? And it was just nice to see that he said that to him, from the Iceman, as he's called in previous episodes. So that was nice. And then all the funny moments happened at the start of this episode. It got like, about halfway through it got just serious after that, but the whole Sherlock and Janine dating thing, it ended up he was using her, but that was brilliant. Just seeing Martin Freeman's expressions as he watches these two people kind of like around each other, and he's just like, what? When did this happen? And it's obviously because to Sherlock it's no big deal. It hasn't happened before, it's happened now. But to John, who's never seen him show any interest in sort of romance, to just see him like he has a girlfriend, that's all he cares about, even when Sherlock's explaining to him this really important stuff about Magnuson. That was really cool. Then it reveals she's Magnuson's PA, which is why she's Mary's friend, which is why Sherlock is dating her and proposed to her later on to get into the house. Then we obviously find out around this time that Mycroft is protecting Magnuson, which is I suppose the big plot point. They definitely could have been a bit more clear about what the Mycroft involvement with Magnuson and like what that whole thing is about, but I think I got it in the end. Please, in the comments below, tell me if what I said at the start of this review is wrong and I've completely misunderstood the plot of the episode. But yeah, as I said, I love that scene where he just Sherlock wants Mycroft to leave and he just smashes him up against the wall. That was we haven't had a huge opportunity this season to really see Sherlock like in like action. They've kind of put him more in a kind of emotional kind of character situation, so we haven't really had stuff like him sword fighting in one of the earlier episodes and stuff like that. We find out what Redbeard is another point I have here. It was the childhood dog, apparently pretty much only owned by Sherlock. I assume Mycroft was his dog as well, but he didn't care as much as Sherlock did. And Sherlock talks a lot about sentiment, as even mentioned in this episode as well, but apparently that was one of the first things that he ever had like a real attachment to, emotional attachment to, and kind of explains why he hasn't had one since until John. He had to be put down, and the line, when he's dying, they're going to put me down too. That was a nice kind of like little emotional thing just to have in the episode, that he had a childhood pet, and that was the one kind of thing he had that he was like emotionally attached to. And when the dog had to be put down, it kind of changed him in a way. What else do I have here? Next page. Then Then we get the big reveal about Mary, which I wasn't expecting. I knew something was going to happen, but obviously BBC were saying before the episode that someone was going to die. We've later found out that it's Magnuson who dies, but no one was really expecting it just to be him. So that was a kind of nice troll moment that throughout the whole episode it was just like, Sherlock's been shot, oh, they're going to kill him again for real this time. Then there's moments when I thought John was going to be killed and Mycroft was going to be killed. There's a moment where I thought basically every character was going to be killed just because they said that going into the episode. So the big shock of Mary, initially at least, apparently turning out to be evil, but then it just being revealed that what she was doing was actually to save Sherlock, and then also the whole reason she confronted Magnuson was to basically save her marriage and like save John from having to find out about her past. And I like the way they didn't just go down the road of, oh, Mary's evil now, and that it was actually a more emotional thing, in that she does actually love John, and Sherlock kind of understands that, and the whole point is that they have to get Magnuson out of the way, or at least get the proof of what Mary did out of the way, so Sherlock can basically fulfill his last vow to kind of protect them. And that was nice. And then obviously he's shot, and we get probably my favourite group of scenes of the episode, the Mind Palace scenes. I thought they were really well done. Just when he's shot, and then you see Molly particularly, and then a bit of Anderson, basically going through the deductions that Sherlock's going through in his head as the way to basically save his own life. I like that it wasn't just he went down, that was it, but he's still thinking like that detective even when he's shot himself, and he falls the right way to protect himself. He keeps himself calm from going into shock, and all these other little things. It was really really impressive scene as well, is the main thing to say there. Interesting choice of having Anderson in there with Molly as opposed to like someone else, like maybe Greg or something like that. But anyway, this is the first time we see Moriarty in the episode. He's kind of chained up in this area of Sherlock's mind palace. So he's not someone Sherlock wants to forget about, but he's also someone he doesn't want to just let roam around his mind. So it's a pretty interesting situation that Moriarty was in the mind palace. He's kind of chained up, and it was actually something Moriarty said that actually got Sherlock to kind of, I suppose, spark back into life, is the best way to say it. He says John is in danger, and that kind of gives him the will to stay alive. Again, that's just a nice moment showing their friendship. And the whole thing is that Magnuson has files on Mary from her past. She was a CIA operative or something like that, and that whole thing, that was interesting to find out. That was Mary really was the plot of this episode, I suppose. That was the whole thing, trying to save that family. This is the episode where the title, I suppose, really has the most meaning. The title actually means what the episode is about. His last vow was to protect them, and in this case it's about protecting Mary from her past. And then obviously Sherlock survives. The scene where he goes to confront Mary was interesting because you get hints before that he's told John to kind of come here, and then it actually happens, and it is really emotional because you see how hurt John is by all of this and how much Mary didn't want this to happen. But it's not something that like it's fundamentally like she's an evil character now or like bad. It's just this is the way things have gone, and it is emotional. And yeah. Sorry if my notes are all over the place. It's they're long episodes. Probably going way too long in this episode already. Yep, I'm already 19 minutes in, and I have so many more notes left. But I'll try and go through the rest of them pretty quickly. I like that Sherlock's whole idea to kind of bring Mary and John kind of back together was to have them meet in his parents' house, because he knows that his parents are kind of this really nice couple, and the fact that just that he can notice that was interesting in itself, and that's what brings them back together. And then we get the flashback to the immediate aftermath of John finding out, and you get the kind of flash drive with her information on it, which is interesting, I suppose. You know, I assume Magnuson has a copy of that, and if that's not what she got from Magnuson, but anyway, and they obviously didn't talk for ages. But I did really like the kind of makeup scene where, you know, John just goes up to her, throws the the files into the fire, and just says that I don't care about your past, but I care about your future. Basically, I think he said the something of your future will be my privilege. It was a really nice line. The flashback scene I thought was one of the best acted scenes probably in the episode with Martin Freeman's kind of delivery on the whole thing about, why is everything my fault, and he gets really angry when they're all kind of grilling him about the fact that he is attracted to these dangerous situations. That was a big part of the episode that I liked. Final page of notes here. And then we get to the whole trade situation. He's going to trade basically Mycroft for an invitation to Appledore to get to this information. But he's not actually trading Mycroft, he's just trading Mycroft's laptop, which has all these government secrets or something like that. And Magnuson instantly sees through the plan. This is a kind of odd part of the episode in that I'm not 100% sure about the decision to just have Sherlock just make the mistake here, that he made a huge mistake here and that he's put into this crazy situation again. It kind of felt like a little bit like aspects of the Reichenbach fall all over again a bit, but that he's making these big mistakes, and it just, I feel they have to be careful about how much they, I suppose, limit his deduction skills and stuff like that, because right now he's made some pretty big mistakes in just 9 episodes that we've had. So I think in season 4 they need to have him build him back up again as like the master detective solving this sort of stuff. But that's just a kind of side point. This is where we get the whole thing about him just being a businessman, and then Mycroft arrives, and it was just a really dramatic conclusion to the episode. Mycroft in the helicopter telling them to stay away from everyone. Sherlock picks up the gun and just the Christmas present wasn't Mycroft, it was a bullet to the head. And just interesting thing that to fulfill his vow, he had to do something that would put him in insane trouble, where basically he's going to prison or on this mission which is going to get him killed, because he didn't kill someone who did something against the law. He just killed someone who a lot of people didn't like, and that's the kind of key difference here. He couldn't be the hero here. Sherlock in a way had to be the kind of villain, make this sacrifice to help the Watson family, and that was interesting. I like that decision that they just say this guy isn't evil. It's not like Jeff Hope from the first episode where he's killed people already. Him dying kind of is karma or anything like that. It's just, yes, he's kind of like using his information to get above people, and it'd probably help the world for him to be gone, but killing him is just kind of like killing a civilian in a way, and that's what he does. And John realizes this, Mycroft realizes this, and that's the only way that he could fulfill his last vow. He had to go to insane lengths to do it, and that was interesting. And I think that the last 7 minutes are very emotional of the episode, but they also kind of present maybe the biggest problem in the episode, in that once this happens, Mycroft realizes how serious it is, and it's really serious. It's the parting of Sherlock from everyone else. He's never going to see them again, and it just changes from you've done like the worst possible thing you could ever do to we need you back again. Moriarty's back, and Magnuson, we don't care about him anymore. Just kill him again. Why not? It's just this huge shift in kind of tone from you've just killed someone, you're going on this death mission to Eastern Europe, to someone even worse has arrived back. We don't care about Magnuson anymore. It worked because I thought it was a really epic moment when the music just starts up again. The classic Sherlock music just starts up again, and the game is back on. Basically, the plane lands. There's a whole east wind line. Sherlock reveals that his actual name is William. I get why they said that. You know, John saying John Hamish watching him, finding out about that. He finally tells him his actual name. Just a weird reveal that his name's not actually his first name, at least, is not actually Sherlock. Interesting, but yeah, just an odd kind of tonal shift towards the end of the episode. Kind of after they've done so much in this episode to build up Magnuson, and suddenly he's just like, we don't care about him anymore. You're meant to go to you're going on. You're basically going to die because you killed this man, and now his death doesn't mean anything. They'll probably have to address that at the start of season 4. But the big talking point is the fact that Moriarty's back. Apparently, at least. This animated GIF of him appears on the screens all over England, and Mycroft and the British government think this is big enough to bring Sherlock back, and apparently grant him immunity from what he just did. And I think this really kind of, I'm gonna say it probably saved season 3. Not that season 3 was like bad or anything. I really did enjoy season 3, but it really helped it from being just that season that wasn't particularly plot focused. It just added this extra thing to make you go, okay, like just thread the break that it's not just ending on this terrible note. It's just like, how did Moriarty survive now? The season 2-3 break was, how did Sherlock survive? This is how did Moriarty survive? And now two characters that we are just really like, Moriarty and Sherlock, are kind of going to like lock horns again, which is interesting. And then you have the whole idea of the joke I'm sure they're going to make at some stage in season 4, that in the Reichenbach fall, looking back on it now, they both went up and apparently fake suicided each other, which is interesting. But yeah, really solid episode. I appreciated the shift towards more kind of plot focus, but really the key point was introducing a villain that you actually found interesting and cared about, giving the villain screen time. And they did a lot of interesting stuff, intelligent stuff, just big character moments, and just really nice setup for season 4. I'm very impressed. So yeah, that's the end of my review. I will be getting the season 3 DVD set when it comes out on the 20th. I'll probably be doing a review, assuming there are actually extras on the DVD set. If there's no extras, there's little to no point in me actually doing a video. But look out for that on like the 20th, 21st. But thanks for watching this video, and bye.